What's up, people? Hope you guys having a wonderful day, man. Super excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about the three wild card matchups in the AFC today, break down every single one of them, talk about the keys to the game. This is obviously relevant to the Denver Broncos because one of these teams is going to be our opponent. So we're going to talk about them in depth, and I'll give you guys some keys to the game, key matchups to look out for. And my prediction, I'll do the NFC video tomorrow, and then we'll see how we did come this weekend. So appreciate you guys riding with me, and let's jump right into it, man. How about that? All right, so first one we're going to talk about is the Texans and the Steelers. This is kind of an overlooked game, a game that I think a lot of people are really just assuming that the Texans are going to win because they got a vaunted defense. Aside from the Carolina and Los Angeles Rams game, this one is kind of, everyone thinks that one's going to be a blowout. This one, it seems to be a little bit more one-sided as well, but we'll talk about it because I think it's really interesting. Now, let's talk about the Texans first, man. The Texans defense, I'm a Bronco fan. Y'all know that. And I love the Broncos defense. This Texans defense is crazy legit. They are the best in the NFL, in my opinion, because they're stacked everywhere, right? The Broncos have more depth, but the starters are across the board just as good, or if not better, at every single level of the field. Danielle Hunter, you talk about as one pass rusher. Obviously, Will Anderson, one of the best as well. Will Anderson's on another level because he's elite against the run, like unbelievably elite against the run, and he can get at the passer too. Danielle Hunter is very good at both bigger edge guys that really do a good job sealing the edge. They've got some good beef and good size in the interior. With a lot of the guys there. I think Sheldon Rankins and a few other really good players as well. I'll pull up some of the depth chart just to make sure that there's some guys that aren't necessarily injured. But that being the case, they're stacked. They're stacked. Yeah, Sheldon Rankins, Tommy Togai, which he's just a really big body guy. Danico Autry is also, somebody that they can kind of mix in and out. That's pretty good. But they're stacked on the D-line. I think what makes their defense special and really what makes them better, really the best in the NFL and better than the Broncos defense, is the fact that they have studs at linebacker, starting with Aziz El-Shaair, right? He has a little bit of reputation of being a dirty player, but my goodness, can this man fly sideline to sideline, stuffs the run, plays well in coverage. Henry To'o, aside from having an unbelievable name, he's a great player. EJ Speed's been a really good player for him as well in certain packages. But man, these guys are stacked. That is a really good linebacker duo, and they are, playing behind an already elite defensive line. And then, I mean, guys, let's talk about their secondary, right? Obviously, Derek Stingley Jr., one of the best corners in the NFL. But Jalen Petrie is really what makes this defense go. Such an underrated safety. I think that there are a lot of people that talk about him, but not as much love as he deserves. That guy is unbelievable. In my opinion, he's the best safety in the NFL. It's between him and Derwin James. He's fantastic. And Kyle Hamilton. He's fantastic, man. You can use him everywhere. He's great in coverage. He's amazing in the box. Always making plays. Kamari Lassiter is having an unbelievable year for the Texans, and his injury during the Broncos game is actually one of the biggest reasons why the Broncos were able to come back. I think more so than C.J. Stroud's injury, just because of the way the two defenses really matched up against each other. But Kamari Lassiter is a stud. And then, Kalen Bullock, you talk about somebody that coverage-wise, I mean, one of the best in the NFL. He's a phenomenal strong safety, big guy at 6'3", rangy. He's always making plays too. So they are stacked there, man. And that's why so many teams, understandably so, are scared of the Texans because their defense is that legit. They are really good. And it's going to be a really low-scoring game, in my opinion. I think the Steelers will be able to have a little bit of success, surprisingly, against this team because the only way to really have success against this Texans defense is to dink and dunk, keep things short, and methodically, march down the field. You're not going to be able to have a lot of explosives just because of how good they are on the back end and how good their pass rush is. And they fly around everywhere. So anything, intermediate, deep parts of the field is really going to be vulnerable to be intercepted. So the way in which the Steelers kind of match up with them, I think, is pretty solid in that regard. If they're able to get any semblance of a decent run game, Jalen Warren's been really good this year. in all aspects of the game, in the pass game and in the run game. I think that they're going to be able to have a little bit of success. And it's going to be interesting to see how they dissect the defense or attempt to with Aaron Rodgers, too, right? He's a veteran player. He's not the same player as he was, obviously, in his prime, but he's still very intelligent. He can still get the ball out of his hands quickly. Having DK Metcalf back is going to help because at least that'll take Stingley away. And you're going to have to rely on other guys. I just think they have such a limited amount of playmakers there in Pittsburgh to really have any sort of success. But again, I think it's going to be helpful that they got somebody like DK Metcalf back. Adam Thielen hasn't really made plays. I mean, Calvin Austin's their deep guy, but they're going to have to try to find ways to be a little bit more creative with him. And they're going to have to figure it out. But yeah, they are definitely thin at the skill position player spot. Pat Freiermuth, I think, is an underrated tight end. They're really going to need for him to be a big factor. I think it's really, like I said, I think it's going to boil down to the short intermediate routes. Like get Calvin Austin the ball in space, get Pat Freiermuth going as much as you possibly can. If you can work DK Metcalf in, that's fine. If he's got to be a decoy, that's fine too. But really, man, it's going to be the Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell show out of the backfield. That's just the kind of old school game that's going to be there. So it's going to be tough for them to move it around. On the flip side, I think that the Steelers defense has been pretty leaky. They're not all that good. The Texans offense is not very good either. The Texans really struggle with running the football. So can they find anything with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb to be able to have any kind of success? And can they protect CJ Stroud? That's been kind of their Achilles heel. Their offensive line has been really up and down all season. TJ Watt being back is going to be helpful. So, they've got some playmakers for sure on defense. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But they've also shown that they can have a lot of issues. Their D line and the first two sections of their defense are pretty solid. It's the back end where they're having a lot of issues. Trying to move in Jalen Ramsey to play a little bit more safety hasn't really been working all that well for them. And their corners are just kind of a little bit leaky. That they haven't been all that great. But that's where I think the big advantage is. I can see this being kind of an old school slugfest. The way in which CJ Stroud plays is going to be the big key to this game. I know a lot of people talk about the key matchups, right? They talk about, Stingley versus Metcalf, and yeah, that could be a case, but really, I think it's gonna be a lot of, okay, can Kenneth Gainwell be successful out of the backfield? Are they going to be able to have some success getting him the ball in space against these linebackers? Because that is one of the areas in which you can get the Texans in a way. Like, you're not going to be able to have a lot of success against them, but if you can get them in space and have someone like Kenneth Gainwell make a miss, you can have those methodical drives going on down into the field. And what we do know, the only real weakness in this Texans defense is, for whatever reason, they're not very good in the red zone. So if they're able to get these red zone opportunities, they should be able to have some success there. In terms of CJ Stroud and the key matchups there, I think for him, man, the big thing is going to be, guys like Jalen Noel, guys like Jaden Higgins. Those guys are going to be able to really find some space, especially deep against this team. You saw what Zay Flowers just did to them last week. They've been vulnerable with a lot of the explosives. One of the big reasons that the Texans won the game against the Chargers, which was an impressive win, is because they hit those explosives early. So they're going to have to hit some of those early on and see if they can have any success grinding out the clock. I think, like I said, it's going to be one of those old school games, very low scoring. And I think it's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. And I do believe it's going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people think, right? Aaron Rodgers and the experience there, playing at home in Pittsburgh is going to be helpful. CJ Stroud's had a solid career, but he hasn't been all that great in the playoffs. He did play well against the Chargers last year before losing in Kansas City. He struggled in his rookie year in the playoffs, but it's going to be interesting. How do they transition? They're traveling a pretty far distance going East Coast. The weather's not going to be all that good in Pittsburgh. They're a dome team. That's a pretty big disadvantage, but I think they're going to be able to eke out a win. I really do. I got the Texans winning this game, and I got them winning it by a score of 17-13. I think it's going to be just such a battle of a game. It's going to come down to these kickers, man. How's Kaimi Fairbairn? How is he going to be able to hit kicks? I'm going to call it Heinz Field because it's always Heinz Field for me. And, Chris Boswell, can he rebound? He's obviously one of the better kickers in the NFL. He had a little bit of a gaffe that everyone forgot about with the missed extra point last week. But he's very, very good and obviously used to kicking there. That's going to be a big factor, man. That is going to be a big factor in this game is the kicking situation. Ka'imi Fairbairn's been really good. How is he going to do in the outdoor, in the elements there in Pittsburgh? Because it can get pretty crazy. But I do got him winning 17-13 ultimately. And we'll see how that one ultimately pans out. Next up, we got the Patriots and the Chargers. I'll tell you what, man. This one, there's a lot of good games this week, in my opinion. I'm really looking forward. To this one. I think it's going to be just a hell of a battle in every way. Here's my thing. I talked about this a little bit in a previous video. I do believe that the Chargers, of all of the first-round opponents, aside from obviously the Steelers, so between playing the Jags, who they lost to earlier in the year pretty badly, and the Patriots are at least a good matchup for them because the Patriots struggle with getting after the passer. And the Chargers really struggle with protecting the quarterback. So that's going to help offset that a little bit. And that's going to be a really, really big key to it. By far and away, the matchups to look out for in this game, for me personally, is going to be Omarion Hampton and his ability to run the football, specifically outside on these New England Patriots linebackers who are really good at stopping the run, but they're not very athletic sideline to sideline. That's why some teams have had a little bit more success running the ball against them lately, is because when you get those linebackers in space, they can be a little bit leaky there. So that's going to be a big part of this game is how's Kamani Vidal and how are Omarion Hampton really getting after this team. And so that's going to be another one. On the flip side of it, when you look at the Patriots, their defense, they're very, very good on the D-line in the trenches. They obviously put a whole bunch of money and resources in trying to get better on the interior of that defense. So are they going to be able to generate the necessary pass rush against a very vulnerable Chargers offense? I think that's going to be a big key to it as well. I think that's going to be something that's going to be a massive thing to dictate. Because listen, the way in which Justin Herbert's been playing this year, he's been really at an all-pro level. He's been very impressive for me. I've always felt like he was an overrated quarterback, but I think he's been unbelievably impressive the way that he's kind of carried this team. But he struggles quite a bit against pressure. And if you can pressure him, you're going to be able to have him, force him into a little bit of mistakes like he typically does tend to make in the playoffs. However, he's also done really good at buying times and making plays with his legs. And against those vulnerable linebackers like we talked about, his rushing ability is going to be a big one. So can they stop Justin Herbert from beating him with his legs? Right? So now they got kind of two layers that they really have to worry about. They got Justin Herbert's running ability. They got Omarion Hampton, who is looking healthier and looking ready to make some plays down the field. Obviously, I think Arondé Gadsden can make plays. I mean, they're really loaded on the offensive side of the ball. So I think the Chargers have some matchups that they're going to like against this Patriots defense. And it's really going to be all about running the football. They're going to run the football a lot too. They're going to go 13 personnel. They're going to have a 300-pound fullback and Scott Matlock running it. And can the Patriots sustain that? On the flip side, Drake May's been playing at an MVP level, right? He's obviously in consideration to win MVP this year for a reason. He's been a stud. Their ability and their big strength for this team is running between the tackles with Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson, and they'll get creative and they'll kind of get those guys in space. But they've really thrived the most. They have lived and died all year by the explosive play. That's been the big thing. I made a video earlier talking about all the analytics. That's really where they shine, is their yards per play. I think it was like 5.2 or 6.2, something really, really high. That's where they make a lot of their money, is Drake May's able to kind of wear you out, with the run game, creep you down to try to take advantage and stop, Hunter Henry in those shorter routes. And Sorry, 1 second. Let me pull this up. And also, those two running backs that they have, and then they'll beat you over the top all day with Kayshon Boutte, or obviously Stephon Diggs. Kyle Williams has been making plays down the field as well. So they've got a lot of that. And the reason that this is kind of a good matchup for the Chargers, in my opinion, is because the Chargers are one of the best defenses, especially as of late, in stopping the explosive plays. They are stacked with guys in the secondary, right? Derwin James, we talked about him. Obviously, I think he's one of the best safeties. I think he's phenomenal. Cam Hart's played really well. Benjamin St-Juste. I mean, those corners have played decently. But man, and Deion Henley's a really good linebacker, but they do such a good job playing zone, playing that shell look, getting after, trying to confuse the quarterback, and not let you beat them deep. They've been really good with stopping the explosive plays. In the one game where they weren't, against the Texans, which was really surprising to me, they got beat ultimately because of that. So if they can eliminate the Patriots' explosive ability and force them to play a different style of football that they're not comfortable, I think the Chargers are going to have a very, very good chance of winning this game. The weather doesn't look like it's going to be that much of a factor, which I was thinking would ultimately, play into the benefit of the Patriots a little bit. However, the Chargers are a physical team that likes to run the ball, and that typically does work very well in these conditions. So I think that it's going to be a really good matchup, man. And I do think that the Chargers actually have a really good chance of beating New England. I really do. But ultimately, I think what happens is I think the Chargers, Justin Herbert, man, can you trust him in the playoffs? Can you trust him to go out there and win a playoff game? He hasn't done it yet. He played well against the Jaguars for a half, and then they had a historic, comeback where they beat them. That was a definition of like the Chargers chargering. He played really poorly last year against Houston, where he threw, I think, 4 picks, and he had like 4 picks the entire season or something crazy like that. So can he actually play really well this year? I think he's going to have a much better performance than we've seen. But I don't know, man. They're making the furthest possible trip, going from LA all the way across the country, East Coast to Foxborough, in a cold environment, in a place that's going to be crazy. And even though Drake May's never played in the playoffs, it's going to be his first game. His offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, this is where he shines, man. Like, he is one of the best offensive coordinators really ever, but especially in these big games. So I think the Patriots are going to pull this game off, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I got the Patriots winning this game by a score of 24-20. And that kind of goes right along with where the spread is. Patriots minus 3.5. So I think that, and over under 46.5. So I think that makes sense. 44 points total, Patriots by 4. We'll see how it ultimately plays out. But that's really where I got it. And then the game that I'm looking forward to the most, without a doubt, is the Bills and the Jaguars. This is going to be fun, man, because there's so many nuances to these teams. So many. You talk about the Jaguars, right? They've been on fire. Hottest team in football, no doubt about it. They've been playing unbelievable, really on both sides of the football. Trevor Lawrence is playing out of his mind. And so I think that's gonna be really helpful. Them playing on the road at home is gonna be really helpful. Duval, you already know that stadium is gonna be popping off. Really unfortunate for them that they're playing the Buffalo Bills in the first round, because the Bills are really good, man. Like, they have their flaws, no doubt about it, but they've got Superman and Josh Allen, who I think is the best quarterback in the league, and they've got a defense that has shown to be leaky at times, but also tough to score on. You can get yards on them. You're not always going to be able to score on them. So here's kind of the way that I look at it, and why I think the Bills have a really big advantage in this game. Right? The Jaguars defense, excuse me, Jaguars defense been playing really good, right? They've been balling, and they've been making a lot of their money this year as well because they forced turnovers. Is that sustainable? Well, it has been all year. So it better continue to be sustainable. But they've been really good, and they play a unique style of defense. They're very light. They don't usually play. They usually have maximum 2 linebackers that come up in the box. I remember looking at them heavily when the Broncos played them a few weeks ago. So they really won't go a lot of 3 linebackers. They're going to bring in a safety, Andrew Wingard, I believe is his name. to play in the box and play the run a lot. And they do a really good job of it because they've got Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead. Those guys up front do a really good job of not only playing the run, but being able to pressure the passer so they can go a little bit lighter and have success. How that gets sustained, we'll see. That was one thing I talked about the Broncos is they might not have success running the ball early, but they've got to stick with it because eventually you could wear them down, especially when we were playing them here at Mile High. That's kind of what I look like. And the thing about it is that's exactly the Bills' identity. And that's why I think the Bills would I'm going to be fascinated to watch this matchup and see if the Jaguars actually do adjust to that. Because the Bills, if Dalton Kincaid is healthy, right, which that's going to be a major key to this game. And with Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes, they'll run 3 tight ends with their massive offensive line, right? The best tackle duo in Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. Big guys on the out there that are just road graders. And they will pound the rock with James Cook, with Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, whoever's available there if needed, obviously with Josh Allen. And they will wear you out. And that is one of the reasons why they're the best running football team and rushing offense in the NFL. And it's why I feel like they're such a dangerous team. And in my opinion, should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl because based on that logic, the teams that can run the ball and control the clock can always have a good chance to win the game. So that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing is how does that light Jaguars front counteract Josh Allen in this run game? Can they have success? Josh Allen in the run game can really have success and they can force the Jags to make some adjustments, then they'll be able to find some success throwing the ball, to Khalil Shakir. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid, again, he's going to be a huge part in the run and the pass game. I think he's the biggest X factor for them in this game. And then who's going to step up for him aside from those 2 guys in the pass game, right? Is it going to be Brandon Cooks? He's made some plays since he signed there. Is it going to be Gabe Davis? I mean, Keon Coleman hasn't really done anything all year, but it's going to be somebody. And remember last year we played the Bills in the playoffs. It was Ty Johnson that had a really huge play. So who's going to be able to make that play for them? That's going to be really a major key, in my opinion. On the flip side, you're talking about the Jaguars offense. There might not be a quarterback like over the last 2 months of the season that's playing better than Trevor Lawrence, man. Trevor Lawrence has been balling. He's been playing so well. At all levels of the field, accurate, confident with the football. He started off a little bit. You can tell there was that transitional period with Liam Cohen, but man, he's really gotten comfortable. And their offensive line has also played a lot better over the last month and a half, really, of the year. That's been the most impressive part is they've kind of had to switch some pieces around. They've had some injuries here or there, but as a unit, they've actually played really well, at least good enough to give Trevor Lawrence the kind of time that he needs. And then guys like Parker Washington have stepped up. I mean, he's been such an underrated, such a good weapon. Brian Thomas Jr. we know can make plays. Jacoby Myers can make plays. So it's going to be interesting to see that. Where the Jacksonville Jaguars have truly struggled big time is running the football, right? They haven't been able to have much consistency at all running the ball. And how does that work up with the Bills? Not that big of a deal because the Bills, in terms of overall rushing defense, are one of the worst in the NFL. They're actually very leaky in the run game, which is a little bit of a surprise, right? With Greg Rousseau being such a good edge player and having some, that beef in the middle that we talked about. But, we'll see. Is Daquan Jones going to play in this game? Deion Walker, how's he going to look? He's a big guy. Joey Bosa. Right, Matt Milano. They got a lot of question marks. They got a lot of guys that are question marks. But I think if Matt Milano can play, Daquan Jones can play, and they can really force their strength, which is defending the pass, and up against the strength of the Jaguars, which is defending the pass. It's going to be a really fun battle to see who ultimately wins that. So this is like a strength on strength matchup. Because the Jaguars are number 1 in the NFL in rush yards per game defensively, right? And the Buffalo Bills are number 1 offense in the entire NFL in rushing offense. So again, how is that going to match up? If I'm Buffalo, if I was the Bills, I'm saying we are going to just beat you up as much as we can in the trenches, force your little guys to keep on defending the run. I do think that they ultimately will have an advantage. But again, it's crazy because the Buffalo Bills average about 160 rushing yards per game, and the Jaguars give up about 85. It's a massive discrepancy. So I think it's going to be big there. Josh Allen's going to be a major factor in that area of the field as well in terms of just being able to run the ball and use his legs himself. And then in terms of a pass defense, right? The Jaguars have a little bit of vulnerabilities in terms of their ability to defend the pass, right? They're kind of middle of the road as a pass defense, and offensively, the Buffalo Bills. See where they rank from a pass defense standpoint. I probably should have had this pulled up before. They're kind of middle of the road too. So it's crazy how these two teams match up, and that's what's going to be so intriguing about it. Is it's truly a strength on strength type of game. It really is. If you're asking me who I think is going to win, guys, I'm not going to lie. Like I always look back when I look at teams and they're very evenly matched, and it's a strength on strength type of game. I always look at, okay, what are going to be the biggest X factors? What are going to be the biggest things that change this? And the weather in Jacksonville looks like it's going to be decent, fairly breezy, slight chance of rain is what they're saying. So that's not going to be that much of a factor. Here's one thing that no one is talking about in this game that I think is extremely important, and that is the kicking situation for the Buffalo Bills. The Jags have a really good kicker in Cam Little, crazy strong leg, and he's been very accurate. He's been very good for them this year. The Bills have gone back and forth with kickers, right? They put their starting kicker early in the season. I think before the season even started, Tyler Bass went on IR. He hasn't returned. Matt Prater, the 41-year-old former Bronco, one of the best kickers, I think the best kicker in Broncos history, was performing admirably, but then he's missed some time. And he had an injury in week 18 with a quad. He didn't practice today. They say he's trying to practice tomorrow. They signed Matthew Wright, who's like, his career has been always a fill-in kicker, but he's never gotten a full-time job, but he's been decent. That's going to be a big one. That's going to be a really, really big thing to keep an eye out is the kicking battle here. And, if there's a miss or two from Buffalo, that can really sway this game. But I ultimately look at it like, yes, Trevor Lawrence has been playing amazing. He's been playing the best football of his career by far and away. But Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the playoffs. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL in general. He just turns up another gear in the playoffs. I do have the Buffalo Bills winning this game. And I got it in a very, very exciting game of 28-27. I think it's going to be that sort of a ball game. I got the Bills winning. And that goes, again, they didn't even plan this, guys. That goes in line with the Bills being minus 1.5 point favorites. So it's going to be fun, man. I love to know you guys' thoughts below. Appreciate you guys riding with me. As you know, I never script nothing. I don't really usually have notes. I just kind of freestyle a lot of these analysis and talking points. So if there's anything else that I missed in terms of some key matchups to look out for, let me know below. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Go Broncos, baby. Peace.